to uncover the truth behind her husband's tragic death. Seo Moon-ju made a life-or-death gamble. She hired a demon as her bodyguard. She understood that to enter hell and expose its vilest conspiracies, only a demon could lead the way. What she didn't know was that the cruelty of this war would shatter her already fragile heart into a million pieces. The world thought Moon-ju had gone mad for placing her trust in Baek San-ho. On paper, San-ho, codename Polaris, was a legend. A ghost. The nightmare of every assassin. He had protected 737 high-value targets without a single failure. But his past was a web of contradictions. Born in Mongolia, a U.S. citizen, fluent in Korean yet with no official ties to the country, he was a seasoned veteran of the Iraq War, a cold-blooded mercenary, and most suspiciously, a former volunteer at a church known for housing North Korean defectors. Was he a hero or a spy? Facing a storm of doubt, Moon-ju remained unnervingly calm. She knew her husband's death was no simple assassination, and the fact that San-ho had appeared twice to pull her back from the brink of death was no coincidence. He was the only key, however dangerous, to unlocking the truth. But the world's political stage was shifting. South Korea was being sidelined, and a chilling warning reached Moon-ju. With her growing popularity and peaceful agenda, she had become a thorn in the side of powerful nations, making her their next likely target. Instead of fear, the warning ignited an even fiercer determination in her eyes. Inside her new safe house, the walls themselves felt like they were closing in. Her chaebol mother-in-law paid a visit, her words laced with venom, warning that a man like San-ho was a fatal poison to women. Once feelings were involved, the entire plan would crumble. But Moon-ju had already made her choice. She would use this poison to see if it would kill her, or if it would kill her enemies first. San-ho immediately turned Moon-ju's space into both a fortress and a cage. He removed her wedding photo, sealed every window with bulletproof film, and declared he would sleep in the room next to hers. His ruthless professionalism, where every action was calculated in terms of survival, clashed violently with Moon-ju's world. His words, laced with the coldness of a man all too familiar with death, left her unable to argue. Meanwhile, under their own roof, the mother-in-law planted seeds of doubt about everyone, including San-ho and Moon-ju herself. At a pivotal campaign rally, amidst a sea of cheering supporters, San-ho's predatory gaze locked onto a suspicious man. No one believed him. Then, as the motorcade departed, the man reappeared. A deadly instinct flared in San-ho. He roared at the driver. But it was too late. An explosion ripped through the night, engulfing the convoy in a sea of fire. Like a beast unleashed, San-ho shielded the injured Moon-ju, carving a path through the smoke and chaos into the darkness of a subway tunnel. Her breath still trembling, she asked, "How did you know?" San-ho pointed to the assassin's tattoo, the mark of one of the world's most notorious hitman organizations. It was then that Moon-ju realized with horrifying clarity, this was no longer a political game. She had been thrown into a real war. The bombing fractured the team from within. Chang Hee's suspicion of San-ho peaked when he uncovered a link between San-ho's former mercenary group and a past terrorist attack. Even the safe house was a suspicious setup. Pushed to his limit, San-ho confronted his handler, only to be met with silence. Realizing he was just a pawn and terrified for Moon-ju's safety, he snarled, "I'm done," and smashed his phone. That night, Moon-ju awoke from a nightmare. Haunted by the whispers of her husband being a spy, she sought out San-ho, and in that rare moment of shared vulnerability, the walls between them crumbled. She confessed her fears, admitting she needed someone ruthless and strong enough to walk with her through the darkness. Moved by her raw honesty, Moon-ju removed her husband's necklace, her most cherished possession, and placed it around San-ho's neck. It was no longer a contract between a client and a bodyguard, it was a life-or-death pact. A fragile yet fierce trust began to bloom between two lonely souls. But the vortex kept pulling them deeper. Chang Hee discovered that the listening devices in the mother-in-law's home were linked to her treacherous second son, Jun Chang. Soon after, he found a secret phone belonging to the late Jang Jun-ho. Its contents were so shocking that Chang Hee frantically wiped the data and fled. But a horrific accident stopped him. At the hospital, Chang Hee used his last breath to whisper a message, "Tell Moon-ju." His words died with him, plunging everything into a deeper fog. The phone was wiped clean. Just then, Moon-ju received a text, an address, and a photo of a cross necklace identical to the one she had just given San-ho. To find the answer, Moon-ju went to the address, unknowingly walking toward a different kind of truth, one that would hurt more than any bullet. Seo Moon-ju's world didn't collapse because of an assassin's bullet. but because of a truth far more cruel. The husband for whom she mourned, the man for whom she was risking her life to find justice, had another family, another woman and a 9-year-old son. The third party stood before her, shamelessly screaming in the name of love and motherhood, twisting the narrative until Moon-ju became the villain in her own tragedy. Moon-ju was numb. The love she had believed in was nothing but a perfect lie. The pain of betrayal mixed with self-doubt. Was this life and death gamble even worth it? The other woman weaponized her tears, speaking of her son's trauma, and mocked Moon-ju's elegant grief as a hollow performance. Then, she delivered the final blow, a necklace identical to Moon-ju's. A gift of love she herself had designed. Every sweet memory turned to ash. Moon-ju left, shattered, but from those ashes, a tempest was rising. She was not a lamb to be slaughtered. She was the queen holding the trump card. She confronted her mother-in-law, the puppet master behind the scenes. The old woman shamelessly admitted she knew everything, coldly framing the affair as a golden opportunity for Moon-ju to escape her husband's shadow. That chilling pragmatism ignited the last fire within Moon-ju. She tore up their contract and played her ace, a dossier containing years of collected evidence of the family's financial crimes. Enough to send them into an abyss from which they could never recover. A stunning slap from her mother-in-law didn't break her, it liberated her, severing the final tie to that living hell. That night, in the desolate quiet, Moon-ju finally allowed herself to cry. Baek San-ho didn't approach. He just stood behind her, his silent presence an invisible shield. He knew she didn't need pity, she needed power. And he gave it to her. He taught her to shoot. The sharp crack of the pistol marked the transformation of a politician into a warrior. As he gently placed his hand on her shoulder to correct her stance, he finally understood the immense weight this extraordinary woman was carrying. But personal tragedy was quickly dwarfed by a global crisis. Moon-ju's mentor, Dr. I.M., was brutally beaten after publicly warning of an impending war. From his hospital bed, he revealed a terrifying conspiracy. The U.S. was on the brink of attacking North Korea based on false intelligence about a nuclear super submarine. A phantom threat fabricated by an arms dealer named Stella Young. This wasn't just a war for profit, it was intrinsically linked to her husband's death. The clock was ticking. War was mere hours away. When the final puzzle piece from her husband's secret phone was decoded by her aide, Moon-ju knew there was no turning back. Personal vendettas were now tied to the fate of her nation. She decided to play the biggest gamble of her life. In an emergency press conference, Moon-ju exposed everything. She patched in U.S. Assistant Secretary of State Anderson, forcing him to admit to the entire world that the evidence for war was a fabrication. The conspiracy was laid bare, stunning the world. It also made her the #1 target. A sniper's bullet was already chambered. A firework in the sky was the kill signal. But in that fateful second, San-ho moved like lightning, shielding her. They escaped the chaos, racing away on a speedboat. The assassin's final, desperate shot grazed Moon-ju's arm. She gritted her teeth through the pain. But San-ho's eyes were filled with a burning rage. At a remote hideout, he stitched her wound himself. There was no anesthetic, only a piece of gauze for her to bite down on. That moment of shared, excruciating pain forged an absolute trust between them. The way she looked at him was no longer as a client to a bodyguard, it was with a searing intensity. In their apocalyptic flight, they found moments of impossible peace. San-ho awkwardly washed her hair, the warm water and the gentle touch of his fingers a breathtaking luxury. That night, by a fire, she asked him, "If war really breaks out, what will you do?" San-ho looked deep into her eyes and answered without hesitation, "I'll protect you." Moon-ju's heart stirred. The air crackled with unspoken emotion. And then, San-ho leaned in and kissed her, a kiss that melted away all the fear, the danger, and the turmoil. But the moment was brutally shattered by the blare of nationwide emergency sirens. War had truly arrived. On the precipice of the end of the world, they found each other. But was it a new beginning? Or a final farewell?